The growth in internet and mobile access in Zimbabwe has brought with it a need for active encouragement as well as investment in the production and development of content with a national context. Now, this is not to suggest in any way that there is no content coming out of Zimbabwe. To the contrary, we've got platforms like 263 Chat, 263 Africa TV, newzimbabwe.com, Her Zimbabwe, as well as ZimboJam and my own platform 3mob.com. This of course comes with certain challenges, and there are three of them. First of all, cost of access to the consumer, as well as for producers, censorship, as well as production costs. All of this happens in the backdrop of one simple thing. Internet service providers are there to make money.
Our content is accessed by people who are always online, mostly online, and looking at the increased internet penetration, and means everyone who has a smartphone and can go online can access our content. And we realized that it's, yes, mainly Zimbabweans, but most of them we assume are in the diaspora because of the one-on-one interactions we have with one of them, and sometimes we ask them to do offline activities because of their high level of interactions. We then realize that the first half of the people we've asked are telling you they are not in Zimbabwe.
So if I look at our Twitter account, just looking at that, the majority of our followers are local. So 60% are local. When you go back to those Zirukufaya videos, that taught me a lot, in terms of people are able to make their own content and then share it. So up until that point, I personally I was trying to figure out whether people would consume video content. And obviously 263 was headed in that direction. We were trying to make as much video content as possible. But I used Zirukufaya as a case study for, so people are sending, people are making, and there is demand. I think when you look at Zimbabwe as a country, and you look at the population, you look at the stats, so 60% are below the age of 40. Those are a lot of young people who want access to information. So there is demand. I think we as content creators, as a collective, have a huge role to play in creating content that is actually in demand and trying to understand what kind of content people actually want to consume.
We have, of recent, we've had a lot of Zimbabweans locally appreciating, especially with the program Ingo music show that we've been doing, because we've been focusing on local music videos that we were doing reviews on. So we had a lot of hits coming from Zim, and surprisingly, we have a lot of Zimbabweans in the UK that have had an appreciation, and also Australia, and then you get the States. And because we're doing in the segment what we call our picks, and we'll pick different music videos from across Africa, we have had one of our biggest viewership from Nigeria and Ghana, which is interesting because you then get to have a variety of Africans going to view what we're producing.
Many of us have emails outside the country because we don't want the jurisdiction of Interception of Communications Act to affect us. That's the other reason, and many other services. So we are prejudicing businesses that would, people would rather host their emails, their services here. They would not given an option because they would rather have the protection of Google and the protection of Facebook. But then coming back, it comes back again to the game of numbers. We don't have the numbers in Zimbabwe, and that's why it then becomes expensive for me to host it or to have a product localized. If we had the numbers, then we could push for better legislation, more data servers here. You'd find that Google would come with cache servers in Zimbabwe, but they will not bring data servers in Zimbabwe because of such regulations. Interesting that you brought it up. Facebook would not bring data servers here, but they would bring cache servers here because of such regulations.
So as a content creator based here in Zimbabwe, we host locally. I don't think that it's not fair to make, go down there, pay for bandwidth. She's paying bandwidth to watch our locally created content that's hosted here. I'm not a techie enough to understand the mathematics behind that or how it takes place, but I think if you're a local content creator, you host all your stuff here, especially like your website and stuff, why should we make people pay to access that?
We can't just create content when we can't pay the producers or the production line. So there has to be that realization. So that's one limitation. And then when it comes to us having the content, yes, and then you have a platform, but then you're uploading to a platform where a defined number of people can access it, and then that's another problem. So you want to be able to create content that has the masses in mind. So when it comes to online, if everyone can access content on their phone, on their mobile phones, and just log in and upload and just have a buffer-free something, or if your dollar makes sense to actually watch something on 263 Africa TV for an hour or two, then we're going somewhere.
And I think, we need government to really, recognize us as a collective, incentivize us. A lot of content creators are operating underground. So when some of the guys are not paying tax, they're not registered, even the registration of your business is cumbersome, trying to just deal with Zimra. It can take a whole day, it can take half a day, and that's half a day lost where you could be out there creating content. Sometimes it's an issue of just being, restricted by, the police. So you stand in First Street and you try to take a photo, and the police come up to you and say, "Hey, what are you doing? You got to bring out your press card." And then you have to have a discussion about it. But what kind of photos are you taking? Why are you taking those? What are you going to do with it? That sort of stuff. I think it's, government could sort of help and, maybe communicate to the community and say, look, these are a bunch of people that are doing X, Y, Z. If you see them out doing their work in the community, let them be. I'd like a situation where we work maybe closer with the MNOs. How do we work with them? We create content. How can we leverage their platforms, their systems, where we somehow come with something that we put on their platforms? Because we all know, all of us in this room have a mobile phone of some kind, whether it's a feature phone or a smartphone or whatever. How do we leverage on that technology and that sort of those kind of products, like SMS, so let's explore things like that.
Zimbabwe is undergoing an exciting digital revolution, and this is without a shadow of a doubt. Of course, policy as well as legislation issues have to be discussed, as well as other critical aspects of the Internet Governance Forum. These are free expression, data protection, local content policy, net neutrality, as well as privacy. And as we come to the end of our three-part series on the digital revolution in Zimbabwe, I would like you to keep up with the discussion on internet governance in Zimbabwe via the MISA-Zimbabwe Twitter account or the Facebook page. Or you can take part in the same discussion on www.misazim.com.